Hey guys, David here, and today more ZV1 tips plus a bunch of test footage and insights. This time the focus is on stabilization. How to go from footage shakier than an earthquake on a trampoline to something smoother than gliding gently over an oiled glacier. I'm going to show you 5 levels of stabilization, including a couple of less known hacks that can really improve your footage, plus an extreme bonus test at the end of the video. Ready? Then let's go. Stabilization level 1 is the in-camera capabilities. No steady shot, standard steady shot, and active steady shot. Honestly, I think for vlogging, unless you have much steadier hands than me, or you can really walk like a ninja, active steady shot is the only stabilization that gives you something approaching acceptable footage. No steady shot and standard steady shot really don't seem too different to me, at least for vlogging. As you can see in the test footage here, it's more unstable than a typical Nicolas Cage performance. Active steady shot is definitely better, but it does still have some shake, and it crops in to quite a close image for vlogging. These are things we will address at level 2. Here we add an inexpensive wide-angle lens to our setup. I made a detailed video setting out how to install the wide-angle lens, the different fields of view available using 1080p, 4K, and the various steady shot modes of the camera, which I will link in the description and up top if you want more information. The reason I put the wide-angle lens one level higher than the in-camera capabilities is that it allows you to use active stabilization but not have a super close angle, so you retain a nice vlogging view and plenty of background capture. Maybe it's just me, but I do think the active steady shot plus wide angle lens combo looks a bit more stable as well. This might be about the relative size of the subject compared to the background. Let me know what you think in the comments. Level 3. This time we're going to add an inexpensive grip extension, so a light tripod, a selfie stick, something like this. Like the wide angle lens, this helps us use active steady shot but retain a wider and nicer angle of view. However, something like a light tripod or selfie stick can be even cheaper than our wide angle setup. Plus, the tripod has other uses and is compatible with other cameras and smartphones. I think the stability of the footage actually remains fairly bad with steady shot turned off or in standard mode. However, once we combine active steady shot with the grip extension, the tripod here, I think the results are actually pretty stable, pretty usable, as we see in the longer clip here. What do you think? So 4K active steady shot. I'm holding the ZV1 maybe 10-11 inches away on a little lightweight tripod. It was something like 15-20 pounds from Amazon. I will be interested to see if this actually gives a somewhat steady image. I quite like this little setup. It's lightweight, it's easy. Once you kind of lock your arm into position, it's pretty comfortable. And I do enjoy looking even more foolish while I do this. So it has a lot of advantages, but will it be stable? That's what this video is all about. Before we get to the really smooth stabilization solutions, thank you for watching the video so far. If it ends up being interesting or helpful, please consider liking, and if ZV1 tech or creative content is of interest to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Level 4 brings a wildcard solution that is unique to the ZV1 and a handful of other recent Sony cameras. Software-based gyroscope stabilization. Simplistically, this works by taking gyroscopic information about the movement of the camera recorded by the ZV1, passing that information into Sony's free Catalyst Browse software, so the software can use the very detailed movement information to mitigate those movements and stabilize the footage. The image does get cropped in to compensate for small movements and camera shake, but in Catalyst Browse you can control exactly the amount of that crop and find a balance you're happy with between stability and field of view. Plus, Catalyst works with steady shot turned off or in standard mode, meaning that you can capture the widest field of view as your starting point before you use that software cropping stabilization. Catalyst works pretty well, but not without some drawbacks. You can see Catalyst does a pretty nice job with footage where steady shot is turned off or in standard mode. Where active mode was used, the extra crop makes the image way too close and tight. However, Catalyst is essentially doing a more accurate version of active active steady shot, so I don't think it makes sense to use Catalyst on footage where active steady shot was used in the capture, therefore it's not a big issue. I did, however, notice some weird visual glitches on my face. Now, I swear these happen only very occasionally in real life. What I discovered was this was to do with the soft skin effect, which by default is turned on in the Sony ZV1. Once I turned it off and used Catalyst again, we got pretty good stabilization and no visual glitches. Most of these examples are cropped in between 80 and 85%, and I think the results are pretty good. The other factor to consider with Catalyst is the extra workflow step and rendering time that it introduces for each clip that you use it with. I have heard other people complain of long render times. I've only tested it on very short clips using my definitely not compensating for anything top of the line 16-inch MacBook Pro, and I've had no problems, but I would need to do quite a lot more testing before I recommend it as an everyday solution that you should rely on. Level 5, and the best quality stabilization I can recommend without hesitation, is through a good quality gimbal. If you're not familiar, a gimbal uses motors to stabilize the axes of movement around the camera and give you super stable footage. You can see the results in this test footage. Smoother than Patrick Stewart and Idris Elba reading each other bedtime stories while covered in massage oil. But 73% less weird than that. The gimbal I'm using is the Zhiyun Crane M2, the most expensive solution in our 5 levels, but one of the best value. For around £200, you get a good quality gimbal, which is compatible not just with the ZV1, but also smartphones, action cams like the GoPro, and lighter mirrorless camera setups. Additionally, you get a slight grip extension and mini tripod function. Additionally, you gain some cool and unique shooting options by using a gimbal like this. I made a video with test footage of the various modes of the Zhiyun Crane M2 along with the Sony ZV1, plus a guide on how to set up and balance the camera with the gimbal. Linked in the description and up above if that's of interest. Now, bonus test. To really test stabilization to the extreme, I did a couple of running tests. We see that the unstabilized footage here is shakier than Steven Seagal's understanding of the word humility. Catalyst footage is a lot more stable, but at the cost of a viewing angle within a couple of inches of my face. That's not a fate that I would wish on anyone. And the Zhiyun gimbal just excels in this running test, giving really impressive stable footage using its sports-focused Go mode. Bravo, Senor Gimbal. So, conclusions. Stabilization built into the ZV1 is okay for vlogging, but with the drawbacks of a cropped-in image and tight field of view, as we saw at level 1. Some cheap accessories can help you get slightly more stable footage and a much wider and more pleasing angle of view, as we saw at levels 2 and 3. These solutions can give you usable results with minor compromises or careful movement. Catalyst Browse and gyro stabilization, as we saw at level 4, has some great potential, but it can introduce glitches in some instances, and I haven't tested it enough to recommend relying on it day to day. However, it is definitely worth investigating, and it could work really great for you. Our gimbal was the clear leader up at the top on level 5, but also commands the highest price. For me, the benefits and the use I get from it justify that price. But what about you? Which level of stabilization do you think looks acceptable? Do you have any other approaches for getting smooth footage with the ZV1? I would love to hear about them in the comments if so. So that is all for today. A massive thank you for watching and making it to the end of the video. If you have any questions, then please let me know in the comments. And if this video ended up being helpful or interesting, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing to help me out. I really appreciate it. Until next time, take it easy.